You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
Do you need a car? Been shopping only to be turned down because of bad credit, low credit, no credit, bankruptcy, or divorce? Guess what? Today's your lucky day, because now you can buy a car, truck, or SUV, just about any vehicle. It's true. Bad credit doesn't matter. No credit doesn't matter. Bankruptcy or divorce, it just doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, your job is your ticket to your new vehicle. We're Auto Credit Express, and we've helped thousands of people just like you. Antonio H. told us, great company, got me connected, and the day I went in, I drove off in the car I wanted. 100% worth your time. Need a car? Get started now and drive off as early as today. Just text FINANCE, FINANCE, to 357-911 right now to get started. That's FINANCE, FINANCE, to 357-911. Auto financing the easy way. Text FINANCE to 357-911.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your healthcare? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their healthcare. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your healthcare, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your healthcare while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, December 17th, 2018. You are listening to For Immediate Release. Thank you for joining us. I'm Bill O'Reilly, and I'm here with Liz Neuer-Feld. Liz, how are you doing tonight?
Good evening, Billy. I'm doing well. I'm just trying to get ready for the holidays, but I'm mashing on all kinds of work things, so it's nice to talk with you.
Oh, with all these things going on, I'm the same thing. I'm running out to a school function in about an hour, so it's good to catch up on the day's news in advance of that.
I'm getting a little nervous for January already. I feel like this is the August, summer time of year when everyone says we'll do it after Labor Day, and now everyone's saying
I know.
Holidays, and January is looking awfully ugly with as many things as I can procrastinate as possible.
I always do that. It's after Election Day. It's like, can you call me after Election Day? Can you call me after Election Day? And people have finally learned over the years, like friends, I used to get calls, like 10 o'clock on Tuesday night, Election Day, like, so what's going on? It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. But it's, the new year just, it could be rough. So that's good. It's a good problem to have.
It is. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about things in general? Because I sense that there's a lot of tension right now everywhere I go.
Yeah, I actually think that things are nationally, obviously, Washington, Trump-wise, I think things, and obviously I'm not alone in feeling it, but my strong sense is that things are really beginning to turn for the worse for the president. And I suspect, and I've heard some of them, that the early conversations are beginning to happen among Republicans on, what if? What if, there's just, the investigation stuff is really tough. A lot of people don't buy some of the investigations, but there's a lot of them. And even, I just saw that on, Judge Anthony Napolitano on Fox just said that he thinks that Trump, there's already enough material to indict him on just one of these investigations. And I think Republicans are beginning to whisper a little bit to one another about what happens if he either doesn't run, if he's so damaged that he would get blown out in an election, or if there's something worse there. What's your sense, Liz? You talk to a lot of people in Washington all the time.
I do, and it's interesting how quiet everybody on the Hill has been since the Cohen sentencing. I mean, I didn't see one Republican on television this weekend, and I'm sure there were some, but out there either trying to explain it all away. I mean, the talking points certainly from Giuliani were, Cohen's a liar, he's always been a liar. There's a little bit of that, but beyond that, I think the Republicans were very quiet, and it's interesting to see how many of them are not returning during the lame duck session. I don't know if you've been following that, but I think you're right. I think they're not necessarily hiding, but they're certainly not coming out to defend what's gone on over the last, 4 years behind, among campaign operatives and interaction with the White House. And it's been interesting. I don't know when is the president's leaving. I think this Friday for 16 days for Florida. Maybe it's this Monday.
That's right. Yep.
Probably this Friday. And, my guess is that people are just going to stop answering their phones as far as making TV appearances. And certainly the White House is going to be spending extra time with attorneys and communications folks trying to figure out how to come out of the gate in January. Certainly the Democrats have been vocal, that's for sure. And I know Nancy Pelosi has been very careful not to talk about impeachment, but she's certainly right. She said right away after her meeting at the White House that her first order of business was to get a hold of his tax returns. I don't know if you've been following a lot of that.
No, I did see that, and I on the tax return thing, I don't think she has the right. If Mueller wants to look at them, he has the right. But if you're not required to turn over tax returns as a candidate, if custom is one thing, and you can criticize Trump for not turning them over as a matter of custom, but there's no legal requirement. I think that's a really bad precedent. If one side or the other starts demanding things like tax returns. Sure, Mueller can do it. I mean, that's in his purview. But for Pelosi to do it, that becomes partisan. I don't like that one too much.
Well, that's interesting because we have not talked about this on the show, but I know there's been a lot of discussion since the election about actually making it a requirement for any presidential candidate to turn over his or her tax returns. What do you think of that?
I mean, I think they turn over enough material. In fact, they turn over more material than is in a tax return through their ethics, filings. So I think they turn in a lot. I mean, my sense is just because it became politics and government is so knee-jerk that just because it becomes an issue in one moment of time, you don't have to change 30, 40 years of policy. And so I don't, to me, I would vote against that. I could see people pushing for it in the argument, but it's not like people run for office, with the public being blind. There's plenty of information in those ethics, form requirements. So that's my take. Do you like the idea? Do you like requiring it?
Well, it's interesting. I think that obviously the big point here, putting President Trump aside for a minute, is that the country should know if you've got investments that would somehow compromise your ability to be impartial when it comes to signing legislation or ruling on particular things, or obviously or whatever, certainly what kind of foreign investments you might have. But your point is right that there are other disclosure requirements that demand or that call for that kind of, revealing that kind of and releasing that kind of information. But the issue with Trump's taxes has become, I think, emblematic of or symbolic of a bigger issue here. This is
a bigger issue, and I think it's unique to him. I mean, literally unique to him, where it's most people give their taxes so that doesn't become an issue. But typically, if you're in a campaign and you call for someone's taxes, it's because you've run out of opposition material, and it's like, well, let's start the tax conversation. You try and get a drumbeat of, he's not releasing them or she's not releasing them. But this is a little bit unique. You know what I keep thinking about, Liz, and this is, all obviously, super premature, but not premature enough to begin to talk about is what happens when big figures, and you look at, Moonves at CBS and other ones, he just lost his case to get paid.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's a good topic as well. But when people are untouchable until they're suddenly touchable, and that's, we saw it with President Nixon, certainly. We've seen it with a lot of electeds in between. But they're so powerful and big and untouchable. Everybody is loyal to them, and you can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, and you're not going to lose your base, et cetera, until they're not. And I was listening to a program on the Nixon, resignation and what led up to it, and it was, most Republicans, and there were some conservative Republicans. I could say I have an uncle who was one of them, who urged him to resign earlier, but most of them stayed to the end. all of a sudden it collapsed. Everything collapsed.
Yeah.
And, you can see it. I know this president's numbers are still pretty good, relatively. I mean, they're relatively stable. But, when, if a Russia connection comes out, maybe the payments with Michael Cohen is enough to indict, or maybe the, other things. But the Russia thing is I think the really politically toxic, and really radioactive thing. If some hard bit of evidence comes out there, I think Republicans are going to run for the hills, and they could go fast. You have some, you've seen it. You've been there a lot. You've spent more time in Washington than I have.
Well, you say that like it's a good thing. It's that old line, change happens very slowly and then all at once, right? We talk about a bunch of lemmings. Very few people come out early and look what happened to Mark Sanford, for God's sake. He came out and criticized the president. He was one of the first to go. So right. I think, and he really was an outlier, but he may end up being talking about vindicated. He may end up coming back with a roar. You never know. But it's so hard to find who the good guys are anymore in any of this, Billy, because I find it's a politics of convenience, which I know sounds like a ridiculous thing to say, but I don't. In fairness to the president here, these Republicans, they backed him when it worked for them. They hide when it doesn't work for them. They didn't want him to be the standard bearer. Then they all got behind him when they saw, not they all, but most of them got behind him when they saw that he was going to win and he would have some coattails. And then they don't stand behind him another time. It's such an unusual circumstance. He's so unusual. The circumstances are strange. I saw today Lamar Alexander said he's not going to run in 2020. And you have to wonder if that's because this has something to do with it. And by then,
and you have to, and you wonder that the timing of that announcement. I mean, that people don't announce things on mistaken timelines.
Right.
Not a pro like Alexander.
You know what really bothers me, or more than bothers me, disgusts me now though. You look at Michael Cohen. I don't know if you had a chance to watch his interview this weekend with George Stephanopoulos.
I just read the transcript. I didn't see it, but I read all the follow up from it.
George Stephanopoulos fawning all over Michael Cohen like he's Joan of Arc, and
right.
I find this guy is a liar. He's been a liar forever. He took advantage of the Trump name for decades. He's now doing a mea culpa, and we see this a lot with people who are just about to go under the knife. But I'll tell you, the line that really got me, which is just laugh out loud. He said, "At some point, I hope to be remembered as the man who brought the country together. Things are so divisive right now, and I hope I can do that."
Get real. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Come back, and after saying that he was blind loyalty to Trump, as if somehow that's a virtue that went bad somewhere. This guy used everything he could use with the Trump organization, and this kind of stuff makes me sick. But my bigger point here was really about the media, because as you know, for 2 years they were chasing Michael Cohen, and they were calling him, Trump light, and Trump's guy, and Trump this and Trump that, and now they're all saying, he's doing the right thing. Oh, for God's sake!
It's insane,
yes.
and that's the thing that I'll probably learn most of from this whole period, however it ends. Really the last 2.5 or 3 years, it's the objectivity lesson. Like, how do you keep like Cohen could be a bad guy, which he is, in my opinion, and Trump could still be wrong. The press could be awful, and Trump could still be wrong. The press could be right, Trump could be right, and the press could, it's so hard to keep objectivity when you're rooting for or against somebody. You know what I mean? The press certainly piles on Donald Trump, and I'm not a huge Trump guy at all, and never have been. But then, when the political left goes crazy and they just attack everything, and the press goes, I find myself instinctively wanting to defend the party. It just happens. But it's so hard to keep objective as the world is going mad, and I think it's to admire people in history who are able to stay cool through much tougher times than this.
Well, the press makes me sick when it comes to Donald Trump because we have talked about this a lot. They were happy to give him $2 billion with a B, free media. Ask every other Republican candidate who was running against the president what that was like. Never mind ask Hillary Clinton. And they built him up and they loved it and the ratings were through the roof and CNN's never made more money. And no one has rooted for or tried to make real Trump's demise than the media. The very media that got him. I think when it comes to Trump, they haven't not 1 ounce of credit for anything that he has done that has worked. It's all if the deregulation's working or the economy's improving, it's in spite of Trump. It's not because of anything he's done. They say.
No, that's right. Yep.
Look what he's done with judges. Look what he and Mitch McConnell have been doing with all these judges that they put in all across the country. Stuff that's going to have really, an effect for generations. And maybe, the press doesn't like what kind of effects they're going to have because they're conservative judges, but Trump has delivered on exactly what he ran on to the extent that he can. He can't get the board all done himself.
Right. No question.
And they gave him the free media to get elected on these issues, so I don't get it. Yeah.
Yep. No, it's not policy issues that bother me, but to your point, you think about as recently as George W. Bush. I mean, could anybody possibly have? Well, I guess maybe somebody can because that's Trump. But could anybody have been more vilified than Bush 43? I mean, it was. I mean, the beating that he took in the press, from 05, 06, in those years, 07, Sturge times, it was just an onslaught. And then you have a few years later when it's convenient to compare him to the president they're now beating up, he begins to grow, angel wings. And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But I'm wondering, and I'm just honest kind of pondering do you think that I don't think they are yet, it might take, but I think pretty soon, and I'm wondering if you agree, that Republicans will begin to consider backups for 2020. They'll begin to look at the field and say, okay, if it doesn't go, because if he's damaged enough, they may throw him out. It depends on how much the base stays, I guess. But do you agree? And I want to run some names by you and see what you think.
I think you're right because I think you're right. The whispering's already underway. The question is, can Pence will Pence be the guy? And if so, who's he going to bring on with him? The Vice President Pence has been as prolific a fundraiser as you could possibly get for a vice president. He is out there. He's been doing it for local state candidates, very much like actually how Bush 41 did for Reagan. There's no daylight between him and this president. Zero.
So I think that's the liability for him. If this went down, if something went down, and maybe this doesn't happen, but if it did.
It goes right, so it cuts both ways, right? So it's been great for him for a while, and maybe it's what it could be his undoing. But I don't know, and I don't know how big a loyal following he has. I know his reelection was in jeopardy in Indiana when he was governor. When he got when he was chosen to be the VP candidate, but I don't know. He's certainly well liked. He's keeping the peace. I've had several dealings with his office, and he runs a very organized ship. I will say this: his staff.
I'm not surprised. Yep.
His folks, they're good people, and they're loyal to him. I can't speak to what the breadth of that support is in deep, at the RNC and around the country and everywhere else.
And actually, if history's any guide, things did go really badly, and if there was, a late piece of paper or the sworn testimony by other people or the recording or something that did a link between, the Russia interference and favoritism, favoritism towards policy in a number of ways, it could be that the pressure would be on Trump to resign, in which case, Pence would obviously step in. And that's a very different conversation.
Then,
a la Gerald Ford, and then the tough thing is to try and maintain that. But the ones, what do you think? I'll run through names, and if you could just give me a sense of where you think they would play. How about Ben Sasse, Senator Sasse?
I like Ben Sasse. I know you do too. And I think it's too he's not known well enough. I think it would take a long time for him to get going.
Right.
But I don't think he's offensive, and he's no Jeff Flake, that's for sure. Thank God.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Jeff Flake is on the list also. What do you think about Jeff Flake?
Yeah, zero, less than zero. I got to tell you, I'm not a fan. Are you?
Okay. I liked the way I liked the words that he has used. I got to say a lot. I know a lot of people are not fans, and but as he's spoken out for his convictions, I've appreciated it. I got to say, but whether or not he'd be big enough to carry that, I don't know. How about Kasich? I'll throw Kasich at you. How about Kasich?
But back to Flake for a minute, because here's where I think there's a big difference between Flake and Sass. Well, I think there are a lot of differences, but I have felt that Jeff Flake is very self-serving. That the way that he saw that his stepping out against the president was working for him, so he decided to double down, then triple down. Yep. He starts a little cute during the Kavanaugh hearings, and I think all of that has bothered me. I don't see that out of Ben Sass.
No, I've heard that from a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of conservatives that I respect that are not fans, and I guess that's the point. Whether you think he was using it to his straight up political advantage, and it was an exit strategy that leaves you with those angel wings. Sass has obviously tried to do both. He's tried to keep in his obligations with the Senate while speaking his mind, and that takes a lot of talent. That's hard to do.
He's young, energetic. He has a good background, Sass does. And, if you were going to think of someone like Ben Sass running against Beto O'Rourke, then you could see energy and youth and intellect and vitality. I actually think that could be kind of fun. I mean, I don't know. Jeff Flake, I find is a little too studied. His whole
doesn't work for you. Okay, yeah. Okay. How about Bob Corker?
I like Bob Corker, and I'm sorry that he's leaving the Senate. I wonder if he's sorry that he's leaving now, too. I don't see him running for president. He's a little angry. I think the angry...
He hit me a little bit, but they're well when pushed, I assume.
Listen, I think he's going to be missed. There are not a lot of people with foreign policy chops these days, and even though he hasn't been there for that long, he has seniority. He's very well respected and inside Senate, and I think that's a big loss. Do you?
No, I think so also, and I think he's a real grown-up in the Senate, in a Senate that needs grown-ups. And so I think there'll be a loss, too. How about, do you think either a Charlie Baker or a Larry Hogan, like the governors, the moderate governors? Anything there?
Larry Hogan, yes. Charlie Baker, no. Charlie Baker's, and I like Charlie Baker. But
yeah, I know you always speak highly of him.
I do, and he gets a lot done in Massachusetts, and he governs the way you need to govern in Massachusetts as a Republican. I don't think that would work at all with the base of the party around the country.
I don't think so either, yeah.
And, frankly, he's not a backslapper. I mean, I don't know how much he enjoys the campaign. He doesn't look like he loves it. And I don't see that, but he's certainly a great chief executive.
Right, other than for electability, there could be, but I think the party is more conservative than he is right now,
that's
largely, right. And that's probably not the work. Same for Hogan, I would say, Governor Hogan.
Yeah.
Governor Hogan. Now, and what about? Okay, I'm going to get to the kind of. I think the one that's a lot of fun to talk about is Nikki Haley. Here's somebody that's got the respect of the Trump base and the Never Trumper world, and the press. The press, respects her.
They do, and listen. She's got her own record. She was, as a governor, and it's obviously at the UN. I've never heard anybody say anything critical of her, and I don't say that because she's a shiny new penny and everyone's fawning. People just think she's solid and smart and speaks her mind and is credible. And I think she's been loyal to the president in a way that's appropriate and expected for a UN ambassador from the United States.
And at the same time, held her guns. They kept her guns.
100%.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I think she'd be an excellent choice. She's got the domestic and foreign policy experience. Obviously, she's a minority. She's a woman, and I would imagine that she will be the go-to for a number of people should the situation arise that the president's not running for re-election.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, right at the top.
Yeah, and she, I remember when she came in South Carolina, and there was always, it sounded like there was some, state politics going on where there was muttering about Nikki Haley, this and that. And I was always a fan and didn't want to hear anything, don't say anything bad about her. But she's really come into her own in a huge way. And the fact that, the way she took on Larry Kudlow when he criticized something that she said, and she just came right out and shot right back. And the way she spoke her mind, and it was not always in sync with what the president said, but, he's someone who doesn't suffer fools, certainly, and he decided not to tangle with her, which tells you something. It's good tangle with almost anybody. And I thought that was interesting. That says a lot about her, that Trump didn't push back against her when she spoke her mind.
No, I think she's handled things beautifully. And I'm sure she strikes me as someone, if she has something that she wants to say that she knows is better to be said one-on-one as opposed to in front of the cameras, she goes right for it. I can't imagine there's been a circumstance where she's held back when she needed to, when it certainly came to representing the United States interests. Yeah, that's right. And how about John Kasich, Liz? Do you think he's probably the most likely, he's the furthest out there as a possible candidate? Do you think it's, I'm not sure he's the one that would unite the party. I don't think he would either. I agree with you. And maybe you like to know. I know. Yeah. 4 years ago, actually, I don't know, but no, I don't see it. I know a lot of people who've been around him who say he's competent, but certainly wouldn't. He's not exciting anybody. And also, frankly, I think that having what I would almost call a default candidate that's just not a good place to go. And I think, or the safe choice. Because it's been such a tumultuous 4 years. I don't think he's going to sell. I don't. That's a great point. Yeah. I don't see it. And also I don't see him as the future. If you look backwards, he's been around for a very long time. And just like the Democrats, we had to talk about the Democrats because they're really struggling with the yesteryear and the future. And Biden Beto, Exactly. You have, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Joe Biden, who are 50 years apart in age. Wow. Right? 38 or whatever it is. I mean, that's two generations. And I think he has whiter teeth, too. It's amazing. Yeah. Ultra bright. He is really something. He really is something. But it's an interesting thought that they have, it's so early in that primary. But to even present the idea of the new and the old, is an interesting idea. The other one I thought about a little bit in the Nikki Haley realm, I don't think as strong as Nikki Haley right now, but who managed to, I think, keep some credibility and also work with the president, is Marco Rubio again. Do you think he'd be back in the mix? I'm so surprised to hear you say that. That's really interesting. Well, I was a Rubio supporter, a Rubio fan. I've been pretty disappointed in him in the last couple of years. Yeah. Maybe he was just too young before. Maybe that was it. And when I say young, I mean by age. I just think inexperience and it's true. No, that's right. I think he's alienated a lot of people. And part of that might not be fair. Everyone wants to pigeonhole him. Meanwhile, he's for the child tax credit. He can be he's a little hard to label. He had been called a conservative for a long time, but I think that label doesn't really apply to him anymore. I think he's fallen out of favor with a lot of Republicans. I don't know. What are you hearing? No, I think he's fallen out of favor with a lot of Republicans also, but I just think about his skill set. And I completely agree that he was too young. I saw him in action up close a few years ago at a Americans for Prosperity event, and it was kind of the dog and pony show of prospective 2012 candidates. And I remember watching him I was in the front row of a forum, and he got hit on some immigration stuff, and I watched him flush and get defensive, and it was just having, we work in politics, and I thought he's not ready. He's just not ready. His skin was too thin. He didn't throw the ball away like a good college quarterback will learn to do. And so he was certainly better in 16, but I think the skill set puts him back into play a little bit. And again, Trump may serve out the term and then go and win re-election. So
I'm being really, really kind of perspective here. But if things did go, I think he could have pushed far enough away from the president to have a little bit of distance between them. Not as much as a fast or as a flake, but enough. I don't know. I think it could put him into play. But Haley, I agree. I think she is an absolute all-star.
I guess the question for her would be, would she be at the top of the ticket, or would she be a vice president with someone? I mean,
top. Yeah, I mean, she's a governor. She's been a, UM.
Exactly.
I think it'd be insulting to put her on the second part.
Yep.
It's funny. They have a friend who I believe you may have met over time, Yitzhak Sackler, who does a show on WABC Radio called Mind Your Business on Sunday night at 10. It's a great show, kind of a big business advice for small businesses. And he had James Rosebush on last week for the second or third time, who was Nancy Reagan's chief of staff.
Right.
Is that right? Chief of staff? Yeah, chief of staff. And he said definitively, Nikki Haley's going to be president. Last Sunday's show, Nikki Haley's going to be president. Like, I see them all. She's going to be president. It's when. And he's just somebody I respect, and he's been around and he's seen a lot of talent up close, and that was his take. Yours too. I mean, you rave about Nikki Haley, and a lot of people do.
I love her. Listen, and look, did you follow her closely during the Republican primary? She came out for Marco Rubio. And at one point, there was an event down there during the South Carolina when she was with Tim Scott, straight to Audi on stage with Marco Rubio. And I thought, she's really a piece of business. She is really good stuff.
Yeah.
She is. She's a leader. And one of the things I like so much about her that I think is going to appeal to a lot of people, the more everyone watches her, is she's very firm, but she's not angry. And I know this is my word and I keep beating this, but it's like Elizabeth Warren is always angry and Jeff Flake is angry. And Pete, I'm tired of it. I don't know about you, but how about a happy warrior here? We got a lot of work to do. Marco Rubio's not angry. He's another one for that reason I really liked him. He was very optimistic.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, but it's true, and I think you should take all the angry candidates and put them over on a list, and I'd say they're automatically disqualified. What I love about Beto O'Rourke, really, I mean, I don't agree with him on 99% of the things that he ran on, but boy, is he a breath of fresh air, and he's smart, and he's competent, and he's got conviction without, again, being angry at the whole world.
Yeah, there was a time, and maybe it still exists, maybe, but I think it's passing before our eyes, where the angriest candidate came across as the most ardent candidate, and people, I know certainly on the Republican side is people assume that the angriest candidate was the most conservative, which of course is not the case. And just, being loud and being angry is, it just means you're loud and angry. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a better leader. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a better, a policy enactor. But yeah, I'm with you completely. I'm done with it. I'm done with the anger thing. You talked about that moment in South Carolina with Nikki Haley, Marco Rubio, Tim Scott, Senator Scott. That was, to me, I was watching with my wife and a daughter, and they're both Democrats, and I said to myself, that's my Republican Party. That's the party. And to me, it was, it's a conservative party, but it was that the ideals of America exist equally in all of them. It doesn't matter your gender, skin tone, whatever it is. It's the idea of freedom, the idea of open market, I mean, all that stuff. And that was a magic moment on stage that they had. It was the first time I ever saw Rubio where I thought, oh wow, he really has it. And I've seen him do good performances, but that night was like, oh wow, there's something special here. It was a Reagan-esque night. It was very Reagan that night. And like I said, it was positive, and you had the combination of the three of them and their three very separate backgrounds. I mean, Cuba and African American and Sikh and all conservative, and so I hope that comes back. I had one of my daughters there. I mentioned she's the Democrat, and she said watching him, I could vote for him. About Marco Rubio, I never forgot it. She said, I could vote for him because he was positive. and he spoke about the American dream, and he spoke about it from experience, and he spoke about the hope that we represent as a nation in a way that was convincing and real. Enough so that, I mean, she does not like the Republican Party, but she's like, I can vote for him easily.
Well, and it's interesting because Rubio is so pro-American and he's so grateful. I mean, one of the things that was appealing to me was his gratitude for opportunity, and he's got this great story about Cuba and his parents fleeing from Cuba. And but he's pro-American without being a nativist he's as committed to our role and leadership role around the world as anybody in the U.S. Senate. I mean, he brings a particular skill set in foreign policy here.
He knows his stuff. Yeah.
He really does. But, I got to tell you, it just kills me that he blew up that immigration deal several years ago, and I'm not sure all these Republicans will ever forgive him for that. I mean, he was the one who blew it.
Yeah, that could very well be the case. You're 100% right.
It really could be the case.
One of my favorite Rubio moments, though, and I was not a Rubio guy in 16. I think I started with Scott Walker, and then I was with Carlos Fiorina. It was, at the end I was Cruz. I mean, I was kind of not, I was not going for Trump. But I loved when the Russian hacking stuff came out before the election, and it was, the first evidence came out of how big and expensive it was, and the emails, the Clinton chief of staff, blanking on his name, emails got hacked. And Rubio said, and a lot of Republicans were cheering, saying it's about time those Clinton emails got out there, and I can understand the sentiment. But Rubio was a real grown-up there, and he said, "Don't cheer for this, because next time it'll be against us. And by the way, we're all Americans, and we're talking about Russians hacking us." And it's like, it doesn't matter whether you're.
Right.
He was very, very. I thought it was a very. It was kind of a clarion call at a difficult time. But
what's been interesting? Have you been listening to any of the speeches on the Senate floor over the last 10 days, the retiring senators, some who lost and some who just aren't running for re-election, and they're kind of swan songs? I got to tell you, they're an angry crowd. Claire McCaskill got up the other day and just blasted everybody. And did you see this?
I haven't seen one of them. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, we've lost our way. We've become the people here need to look in the mirror. When McCain got up last year and said, we're getting nothing done, my friends, we're getting nothing done, he was talking about the process, and he was talking about, the way, the bipartisanship that was missing. She was talking about the failure of individuals, basically how soulless they are. Backstabbing. I mean, I got to get the list of adjectives that she uses.
Wow.
But she's bitter, and, place was not that much different. And, rather than just saying this has been the honor of my life, we've got work to do, she said this place has changed. It's not like, this is not what I came here to do. And it was really unfortunate. And like I said, I missed Orrin Hatch's actually. I should probably catch what he had to say. But it's not pretty to see what's happening down there. That's for sure. And I don't know if this new crop of senators is going to change things. But the crowd that came in, a lot of them for the House and the Senate, they got elected again. Because they're angry. So let's see if we can turn that anger into something productive. But I think we're in really for a tough 18 months.
And maybe it's a natural course of action where, we talk about the desire to clean house and to get term limits and that type of thing. But maybe it's, it's a way, it's the almighty, or whatever you want to describe it to, way of clearing house in Washington. Because a lot of people are leaving. I think a lot of good people are leaving, unfortunately, but no one person is indispensable. There are lots of people who can step into the role. There's a lot of good people with different backgrounds. But if things are changing, I find myself checking the news. I usually check it about, once every 18 minutes. Now I'm checking it every 9. Stuff is breaking.
Well, and, to see another day, which I was very happy about. I don't know how you felt about that, but we talked about that in our last show, just what's going on all over Europe and how basically you can go country to country and see how unstable things are. What's going on in France is frightening. But Theresa May at least survived her vote of confidence or vote of no confidence.
It's true. In the immediate press, and that's where the press could just be awful. Is the immediate take was like, May barely squeaked by. I mean, she got more votes than she did when she first came into office. And it's like the bottom line is she won. You know, she did not get knocked out. And I agree. I think that was great to see. And you're right. Maybe the French stuff is coming down a little bit, but it's just the world is really volatile. It's just amazing what war and recession can do to an entire planet. You know, isn't it? I mean, just whenever you get tough economic times where like the left rises up and then it's just like a cascade of events, and you get the reaction on the right, or I'm sure they could say it's the opposite way. Whatever it is, it's such a ripple effect. I mean, it is a small planet, and it is scary to watch that stuff. But I do think.
Did you see the reports today about about the Senate? Yeah, and what they found, I guess the final report they got on the Russian meddling was just the worst word. Russian interference in the election, and how there were very deliberate attempts, and they have multiple examples of voter suppression, particularly among the African American community, and how the Russians had targeted basically constituency by constituency here.
Oh, I did. I was reading about it before speaking with you, and it's really detailed and really extensive. I mean, it was a massive effort. You see, I gotta say, I worry though, just to backtrack on that thought, I worry though because a lot of people who were trying to dismiss the idea of Russian interference would very casually, just kind of in a one-liner, say like, "Oh yeah, the Russians turned the elections on with Facebook." It's like you have millions of thousands of political consultants in America. The few Russians got together and changed the election. To me, the Facebook stuff that's described in the Instagram messaging, the African American community in particular, and all of that all matters a lot. But to me, the biggest thing is when you're and as you know, I'm not not a Democrat, and I would never have voted for Hillary Clinton. I cut my arms off first. But as a political professional, as you are, when you're leaking emails like the John Podesta's emails and other things, you create huge momentum shifts, and it's a game of basketball or whatever you want to put it, offense, defense in politics. And when you're doing things to change the momentum shift, to me that's the bigger issue, where you can win a race, you can change the outcome of a race based on changing the momentum at a certain time, covering up one story with another one. I mean, you've done it for a living, and so have I. The social media stuff, yes, it could have made a difference, but not as much. And I would hope that people would concentrate more on the momentum shifts and the actual hacking than on the social media, although that matters. That matters a lot too. But the Russians are such pricks. I mean, just that you see how they're trying to divide us with the racial stuff, with the men against women, and it's just, I mean, they're really an unscrupulous bunch.
And they do it all over the world. They do it in every country where they see vulnerabilities and an opportunity to either upset a regime or to suppress votes. And it's everywhere. It's not just here. Just the biggest effects are here. So I don't think it's done. I still don't think, frankly, there's been enough attention paid to the fact that the Obama administration knew enough about this to do something, and that they willfully ignored it. I mean, and ignored is the word. I mean, the president said he didn't want to. I mean, his defense or his explanation for his behavior and his lack of outrage over the whole thing, and his inaction was that he didn't want to influence the election towards Hillary.
He didn't want to be political, right? It was like, I mean, between President Obama and Jim Comey, like you could understand the conundrum they're in. If Obama got in, it would have looked like he was tipping his hand on the scale of Hillary. And then Comey would just kept going back and forth and back and forth. But you've got to, I mean, that's where you need a real leader to step in and say, hey, you got to take my word for it. This is going on.
Yeah.
But it's even if it makes you look bad, like even if, I think you're exactly right, Liz. He had a responsibility to do it being President Obama. no matter how it looked. And if that hurt his legacy, that's just what you have to accept as a leader. Not everything, not everything is your polling numbers. Maybe he tried the best he could to avoid it, but yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. What I've always been curious about is with Cambridge Analytica and the targeting of the Trump campaign, whether Mueller has evidence that matches the exact targeting demographics that the Trump campaign used, and then any of the Russian stuff used. Like if they match the same voter profiles, because the Russians were hitting swing districts in Wisconsin, like they were digging into the election districts. Like an ED could be like 600-800 people, and they were targeting people within that ED, like going after 42 voters that read guns and ammo versus. I mean, they were really detailed. And if any of that overlapped with the Cambridge Analytica data, maybe it doesn't, but I've always thought it might, then that's a smoking gun. I mean, I think that's the kind of stuff that we might see coming out.
God help us. Well, when is it going to come out? And also, the biggest question here is what's being done to prevent it from happening in the future. And I think that the members of Congress and governors everywhere and boards of elections all over the country, these secretaries of state everywhere have said that they've ensured voter integrity, and it's that. Well, we saw it's just not the case. The machine's breaking down, which is different from Russian interference, but not necessarily in some cases, I would imagine. It's tough. The idea that there's going to be a question in every election now about the integrity of the results is damage that's been done. I don't think that's reversible. I agree. And what's interesting was that was one of the big messages that the Russians were trying to deliver to the African American community. They were advancing messages, especially on Instagram, that to suggest it wasn't worth voting because your vote's not going to count anyway. It's corrupt. And they were messaging that stuff, so don't vote anyway. And you've seen that conversation take off in among a lot of demographics. And you wonder, okay, it does work. Messaging works. There's a reason people do it. And I think you're right. Between valid, election problems, and just the crazy rumor or using election interference like falsely as a political weapon to suggest that it's out there, together, I think have really hurt a lot of people's confidence in the system. No, it did. And speaking of confidence in the system, I guess we should be applauding the CBS Board of Directors for after their thorough investigation, as if it took a thorough investigation. But that they have found that Moonves is actually being terminated for cause. The quote was, for cause including his willful and material misfeasance, violation of company policies, and breach of his employment contract. I mean, he also obstructed justice. Frankly, he obstructed the investigation that was underway when he was trying to silence some of the women, whom he had, I guess, taken advantage of, would be putting it mildly. But that's $120 million that they just kept from him. So good for them.
Yeah, good for them. Even if they just wanted to keep it for themselves, good for them. Because he seems like a special kind of creep. I mean, you read some of the transcripts of things that allegedly occurred. And there are enough of them where to me the allegedly gets a little vague, but it's awful. I mean, just absolutely awful.
Well, and CBS the other day, even before they made this public announcement, said they were going to be donating, I think, $20 million to different women's groups and.
Oh, that's right. Didn't know that. Good.
It should be 120. It should be 120 million, not 20. But at least they're doing something. But. No, what a crowd. And, we've talked about this too. I mean, the fact that Les Moonves and his network was responsible for going after Donald Trump for his behavior towards women is a joke. There is systemic abuse at that network. It's really unfortunate. I'm a big Jeff Fleur fan and I still watch, and I love Gayle King and I watch her too. But I got to say, the hypocrisy and that board of directors, it's the governance piece that really frosts me here. Yeah.
I mean, it's. The Weinstein stuff over the years, I mean, Weinstein was at the center of, like, the knee-jerk liberals that were always attacking everybody on the right. Meanwhile, the guys, give me a break. Just actually give me a break, crazy. Any stories you've seen out there this week, Liz, that piqued your interest? that you want to share in particular?
Well, today, I mean, in keeping with our last conversation about the most ridiculous things, I don't know if you saw this, the Daily Beast was reporting today that the witch community in the country, and I didn't know that there was one, witch as in WITCH community, has asked that the president please stop calling the Mueller investigation a witch hunt because it reflects badly on the witch community, and it's pejorative, and and it's nasty, but beyond that, they see themselves as a minority, and they think his comments are, if you can stand it, prejudice against the minority of witches. I love it. I always laugh out loud. It was just
they're being discriminated against, or they're being.
I know. Yeah.
I'm going to start coughing if I let myself laugh. Oh, you got to be kidding me.
No. It is really one of those. You've got to be kidding me. So I don't know if you've seen anything as funny as that. I did see some other fun things just about different Christmas traditions in every state and kind of what people do when they really go nuts. And there was some fun stuff out there that go on.
That
goes on. Yeah.
When I saw actually today, I think it was in the New York Post, is that there was I believe a couple getting packages delivered to their house, and they couldn't figure out what it was. It's in their names and everything, and they're just like package after package showing up. It turns out that they had a parrot that was ordering from Amazon over Alexa.
No. Oh no! Seriously, that is.
They were ready. It would mimic what they were doing. It remembered the password and everything. And these packages were showing up. They couldn't figure it out. They finally did. Isn't that hilarious?
That's hilarious. And did Amazon, that is too funny. I wonder how they figured it out. That is really, really good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, I don't know how to figure it out, but Amazon's good about returns, so, I'm sure that they'll send the stuff back.
Yeah,
that's the whole other show, is everybody's like, everyone's beating up Amazon now, and it's like, but we could do hours on that. But every time you have a successful company in America, eventually everybody turns on them. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's like everyone was on Walmart, everybody was on. It's whatever it is. There's also.
I mean, I think that's the problem. You like to root for the little guy and the underdog, and they've just become this Titanic.
Yeah, no, they actually have, and they've disrupted a lot of small businesses, no question. And I'm probably biased in favor just because I order everything from Amazon because it's easy and I'm lazy, and it's easy to do. But yeah, it seems to be the fad. Like in New York, if people around the country haven't seen the story, Amazon is putting one of their new offices in New York, and it's 50,000 jobs, or I think in New York it's at least half of that. And the average salary is like $100,000 or $150,000 a year, and people are complaining. They give me a break. Do you know how many areas of the country would kill for that?
I know.
And they're all screaming, "Oh, the subways are going to be crowded." Oh, like, so stop it. I mean, like, there's 8.5 million people in New York, and when I grew up in the city, probably about 7.9 million of them weren't there. I mean, they're all from someplace else. Like, stop it with the business subway. They're all from someplace else. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, I guess there could be valid things. There's one other story I wanted to point to that I read last night. I think I may have sent it to you, but it's worth taking a look at. Is even if you love President Trump or however you feel about him, the Forbes had a piece about which tends to lean a little bit conservative, but there's a piece in that the publication date was yesterday, the 16th, and the headline was Mueller exposes Putin hold over Trump. Mueller exposes Putin hold over Trump, and it was written by a gentleman, a political independent named Steve Denning, and it walks through. It's a very good explanation and kind of a clear-eyed layout of what some of the leverage issues are that Putin may have over the president if these certain things are true. And it spells them out in a way. It's just a very simple read, but it's worth taking a look if anybody is interested.
Oh, I'll take a look. I noticed a headline breaking late this afternoon that our favorite or not so favorite governor in New York has changed his position, shocker, on legalizing marijuana.
Yeah. Apparently also he said he's going to get rid of vacancy decontrol for rent control. So it's like, the real estate people have been paying him for years, and now he's, flipping. But there's marijuana. Surprise, surprise, right?
I'm shocked.
Surprise, surprise. Yep. That didn't take long, and he'll have the votes in Albany because New York is now a fully Democratic state, and the votes will be there. But it's changing time. I think we're out of time, Liz. I think we're about to run out. Do you have anything you want to finish with?
No, well, I just want to wish everybody who's listening a very Merry Christmas if you're celebrating Christmas, and certainly to everybody a very Happy New Year. This has been a long 2018. I've talked to a lot of people who are looking forward to changing the calendar and starting fresh, and I'm one of them. I love New Year's resolutions. I know a lot of people hate them, but I think it's really great to start with a clean slate January 1st. So I just want to wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday for the next 2 weeks, and hope that people can put their differences aside and put their anxieties aside and try to celebrate whatever is good in their lives. And that's how I feel, and I hope you do too, Billy. I say that for your family as well.
No, I do. I'd say ditto, and if you have any Stoliznoia, pour it down the drain. But that's but yeah, I think that's exactly the right sentiment, Liz. Thank you, everybody, for listening. It's a real pleasure every Monday being able to. It's an honor being able to talk to you. It really is. But thank you all. Thank you, Liz. Yep.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Majesties over the fruited plain. But now wait a minute, I'm talking about America, sweet America. You know, God done shed his grace on thee. He crowned our good. Yes, he did. Heavy brotherhood from